Good afternoon, everyone. Will Dupree here in the KXAN live studio. We are about to play you some video that was sent to us from NBC News. It's from a feed that the White House did after Governor Greg Abbott flew to Washington, D.C. to meet with President Trump in the Oval Office. They, of course, talked about the COVID-19 response and how Texas is handling that. They also discussed how much federal personal protective equipment has been provided to the state of Texas since the pandemic really began and took off and led to an outbreak here in Texas. Before we play that video, though, I want to show you where the situation stands in terms of numbers. These are from the Texas Department of State Health Services at this point. Take a look. More than 35,000 people have now tested positive for COVID-19 since tracking began. 973 people have now died here in our state, closing in on 1,000 at this point. More than 455,000 have been tested both in public and private means for COVID-19 here in Texas. And there on the right side, you can see that there are now almost 16,000 active cases. Currently, more than 1,700 people are in the hospital fighting COVID-19. And now you see there at the bottom, 18,440 people have now recovered from the disease caused by the novel coronavirus. I'll point out that the positive case count has gone up by 968 cases in the last day. Deaths have gone up by 25 people today. And those are where the numbers stand at this point, again, reported by the Texas Department of State Health Services. Now onto the video of Governor Abbott and President Trump meeting in the White House. You can see they're joined by other members of the coronavirus task force, including Dr. Deborah Birx and Vice President Mike Pence. So let's take a watch as this meeting began earlier this afternoon. The video was fed to us a little bit later. It was not carried live, so please watch this video.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor to have Governor Greg Abbott with us. He's a very special governor. He's done a phenomenal job. Texas is, well, it's sort of like the U.S. We were both booming, and now it's still booming, but it's going to be booming at the highest level very soon, I project. I think we both feel we're going to have a transition period in third quarter, and we're going to have a very good fourth quarter. I think next year has a chance to be one of our really great years economically. So we're looking forward to getting on with it. The only thing is we pay our respects for the fallen. We pay our respects for those that have died, the families of those that have died. It's a horrible, horrible thing that was given to our country. It could have been stopped. It should have been stopped right at the site where it came from. But I want to just thank the governor for being here. I want to congratulate him on truly being, Mike, I think we talk about this a lot, one of the great governors in this country. And Greg, it's an honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. And listen, thank you so much for what you've done. As you know, you and I have had the chance to talk a whole lot on the phone during the course of this pandemic, but the staff that you provided, the Vice President I spoke with this past week in a response, Dr. Birx I speak to frequently getting her advice, and the team that you provided to us, the resources that you provided to us, helped us respond very robustly. Talking about the economy, before this pandemic occurred, Texas was the leading nation for creating jobs. Texas was the leading nation for gross domestic product growth. And so we were the economic powerhouse of the United States, and we are ready to get there again. So we're going about the process of slowly opening back up, doing the right strategies to make sure we can open up while at the same time reduce the spread. I want to thank the people of Texas. It's the people of Texas who've done a great job of slowing the spread, washing your hands, wearing masks, practicing distancing practices to make sure we reduce the spread. Because of that, we are announcing more and more businesses that are opening up gradually to make sure we don't expand the spread, but we're doing so in a way that will make sure Texas will once again reclaim its position as being the #1 economy in the United States.
Right, and I'm sure that'll happen. Do you have any questions, please?
Mr. President, how is it possible that someone who tested positive for COVID-19 got so close to you?
Well, I think probably that has to do with the fact that we all believe in tests. We have the best tests in the world, but they were tested, I believe they're tested on a weekly basis. I just had a test, as you probably heard. In fact, I had one yesterday and I had one today, and it's negative. Mike just had a test and it's negative. But they do the tests, and it just shows you that the fallacy, it's what I've been saying. Testing is not a perfect art. No matter what you do, testing is not a perfect art. So we test once a week. Now we're going to go testing once a day. But even when you test once a day, something happens where they catch something. I've had very little personal contact with this gentleman. Know who he is, good person, but I've had very little contact. Mike has had very little contact with him. But Mike was tested and I was tested. We were both tested.
Did it spook you? Did it stick in your
Yeah, it's a little bit strange, but it's one of those things. It's, as I said, I said yesterday, Governor, all people are warriors in this country. Right now, we're all warriors. You're warriors, we're warriors. You can be with somebody, everything's fine, and then something happens to that person, and all of a sudden, test positive. And we're all warriors together. I am, you are, we all are. It's what we were saying before. It shows that testing, and we have the best tests in the world. But what happens in between when you got tested and just a couple of days later? So in this case, there were a number of days missed, and it was a long weekend and things, and so you never know. But we both tested in a negative fashion, I guess you would call it. Any other questions?
Could we get your reaction to some breaking news? The Justice Department has decided to dismiss the case.
Do something about the plague. But we did something, and we did a lot. And we also, you know what, Governor, we learned a lot about it.
We did.
We know that you may have fires every once in a while at certain locations. Some little ones, maybe some big ones, but you know how to shut it down.
That's
you might
exactly
want
right.
to speak about that.
Sure, I would. I was talking with Dr. Birx about that, and so what we've done, we've been able to contain the spread of the coronavirus in Texas, but at the same time, we created these surge forces that will go out to regions where there are flare-ups, and it's like putting out a fire. We have a surge force working in the Panhandle in Texas right now, up in Amarillo and just north of Amarillo because of an outbreak at a meatpacking plant. There's several other issues with other meatpacking plants in Texas. Basically, there's only 3 categories causing any type of outbreak. There are meatpacking plants, there are jails, and there are senior centers. And so we have task forces that focus on those 3 areas. If it weren't for those 3 categories, the people in Texas testing positive would be very minimal.
And the governor and I have spoken about what he's doing with senior citizen centers is incredible. The time and effort and love that you're giving to senior citizens, they were just what has gone on throughout the country in some instances, as you know, senior citizens areas. And the governor's really made that a point, really almost before anybody I can think of. So.
And because of that, we have one of the lowest death rates in the United States of America.
That's right.
Last week in Odessa, Texas, police were used with an armored vehicle and guns drawn to shut down a bar that had opened up in going against the order. What role does police have in enforcing these kind of lockdown and social distancing orders?
Well, there's different standards used in different communities. However, today I made one thing clear, and that is, as we go through this process of trying to maintain order in our states, as we are asking the people in our state to comply with these orders, we should not be taking these people and put them behind bars. These people who have spent their life building up a business and being told to shut it down and lose every penny they have, and then if they don't follow every little fine point of all the rules, they suddenly are subject to arrest. That is wrong. And that's why I issued another executive order today saying that in the state of Texas, no one can be put behind bars because they're not following an executive order. It's common sense.
That includes the woman that we've been reading about with the beauty salon.
She's free today.
Good.
Sir, following up on the coronavirus, has the West Wing, has the Oval Office been deep cleaned? Are you contact tracing the people around this area that would have had contact with this person? Is there a 14-day quarantine, or should there be for those who are in touch with this
They're
person?
doing everything that you can do. again, within the limits of testing, and you know what that is. We have the ultimate testing. We have the best tests in the world, and we gave more than anybody else. But I've always said testing is somewhat overrated, because what happens after somebody takes a test? What's going on there? And Mike was just saying the word essential workers, and as you know, essential workers are immune from that. Mike,
had that discussion, and he agreed, and we've moved forward together, and I think it's those kind of dialogues. And I think what's really been impressive to me by the governors is how much they know about epidemiology. So they will never be confused in another pandemic ever again, because he came with all of his data about what county had what that was a prison. That was, and believe me, I had all my data with me. And he was able to answer every county and what the issue was. And I think when you look at Houston, when you look at Dallas, and you see the ability to really contain and mitigate those epidemics, but at the same time contain epidemics, then not allow them to spread in the community. This is what we've been asking governors to do with the test and using focus testing to really find asymptomatic cases and protect the vulnerable. And the ability to go into prison, to go into meatpacking plants, and go into the senior care centers and proactively test is really quite extraordinary. And I think we still remain concerned about asymptomatic spread, and we think that the progress that they're making on testing in a focused way to protect others is really a way that we can move forward together to protect everyone in the community.
So Texas is a role model for other states? Or?
Every state is different. So I don't want to get in a comparison with the governors, because I've talked to some incredible governors who are all doing quite a good job.
that's true.
Dr. Murphy, perhaps, Mr. President, 20 states by the account of multiple organizations right now that haven't met the guidelines that you set here, have either partially or completely realized. What do you say to those states that haven't met the guidelines that are already starting that process now?
We've looked at all of them. We've spoken to many of the governors, most of the governors. As you know, we give leeway to the governors, and these are governors that have done a good job in, I think, all cases. I have some that I don't think are doing a particularly good job, but for the most part they have, and these governors have, and we give them the leeway. They have to do what they're doing, like Governor Abbott. When you look at the job he's done in Texas, I rely on his judgment. And you have parts of Texas, vast parts of Texas, where there's no problem whatsoever. I mean, there's like literally nothing. And it would be a shame to keep that closed. I mean,
Half of our counties either have no cases or 5 or fewer cases.
Yeah, it's, the governors have great power as to that given by us. We want them to do that. We rely on them. We trust them. And hopefully they're making the right decisions.
Can I ask you about Georgia right now? There's been some dramatic video of an unarmed black Georgia man who was shot by police while on a jog. There's been a lot of protests about this. Have you seen the video and your reaction to that situation?
So I'm getting a full report on it this evening. My heart goes out to the parents and to the loved ones of the young gentleman. It's a very sad thing, but I will be given a full report this evening.
Haven't seen the video yet, to be clear.
No, I haven't.
Mr. President, there's a report about Saudi Arabia that the U.S. is considering removing anti-Muslim.
Gentleman's a total professional. I think we've learned a lot. If you would have said that question a number of months ago, it would have been different. The answer would have been different. But today, I think we've learned a lot. And you're going to have some areas in Texas where you'll have to put him out, and he'll put him out. What do you think about that?
Well, and we have learned so much the past few months, and we now know first how to go in and contain, but also we now have the resources to go in and to contain. So we're going into these meatpacking facilities, we're testing everybody, or we'll go into a jail and we'll test everybody. And we will separate those who test positive from those who test negative. But most importantly, we go into these senior centers because their lives are so vulnerable. And we focus on our seniors, and we focus on ways to reduce their deaths. And so we now have all of these strategies to make sure that we are able to contain any type of outbreak, and that allows the rest of the economy of big states like Texas to continue to go and grow while we manage and contain the outbreaks where they exist.
That we wouldn't have known 2 months ago. He couldn't have given that answer. The governor couldn't have given that answer 2 months ago. But we've learned. There's still things we don't know about this crazy plague, this particular virus. But the answer that Greg just gave, which was so good, I don't think you could have given that answer, and I wouldn't have known that answer either 2 months ago. So we've learned a lot.
On the Wuhan lab, Mr. President, you had said on Sunday that there would be a very strong report coming out soon about the connection
Yeah,
between the
yeah.
lab and the virus. Is that still coming? When should we expect that?
It's coming. I don't know that I'm going to give it to you. We're going to learn. Look, it came out of China, okay? Whether people like to say it or not, everybody knows that. I guess it pretty much, I think that's pretty much known. They tried to blame Europe. They were saying it came out of Europe. It came out of China. Went to Europe, went here, went to 184 countries, probably more than that now. That was a week ago, 184 countries. Can you believe it? And it could have been stopped at the point. It could have been stopped right at the source, and it would have been easy to do, but something happened. Something happened. Either they made a terrible mistake, probably it was incompetent, somebody was stupid, and they didn't do the job that they should have done. It's too bad.
Are you considering other economic measures to help people that you don't have to go through Congress on, like another?
Will Dupree once again here in the KXAN live studio. That was the parts of the tape that was fed back to us of this White House meeting between Governor Greg Abbott and President Donald Trump, and the comments that specifically focused on the things happening here in Texas. Before we go, I want to remind you all where the numbers stand here in our state. We shared these just not too long ago before the video started of Donald Trump and Governor Abbott meeting there in the Oval Office. Take a look. At the moment, more than 35,000 people have now tested positive for COVID-19 since tracking began for the virus here in our state. 973 people have now died from the disease caused by the novel coronavirus. 455,000 and counting have now been tested for it here in our state. And on the right side of your screen there, almost 16,000 active cases still here in our state. 1,750 current hospitalizations, so that's 1,750 people who are in the hospital right now fighting COVID-19. And then finally, 18,440 people have now recovered after receiving a positive diagnosis of COVID-19. As you all well know, tomorrow begins a second wave of reopenings here in the state after the governor announced that action earlier this week. If you want to take a look right here, once again, tomorrow, barbershops, salons, tanning salons, and nail salons can all reopen with certain restrictions. Gyms and exercise facilities, those are going to have to wait a little bit until May 18th. Occupancy is only limited to 25% in those businesses. Currently, there is no reopening date yet set for bars. We're waiting to find out what that might be. Thanks again for watching here on KXAN Live as we bring you this interview with Governor Abbott and President Trump earlier this afternoon. It was not broadcast live, so we were waiting to get back the full video and show you all here in just a moment. All right, thank you all again for watching. We hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm Will Dupree in the KXAN Live studio. We'll see you back here another time.